Hi, and welcome to our third and final subject webinar, where I am joined by some amazing teachers who will explain absolutely everything there is to do with their subject. However, if you feel that your question still hasn't been answered by the end of this video, then please do come to our webinar chat, which will be with loads of students who are currently studying those subjects, and hopefully they'll be able to answer your questions there. And if you still feel like your questions aren't answered there, we also have the website for you to ask your teachers through email or through our chat function, who can tell you exactly what's going on. But I'm joined today by Mr. Parry, who teaches drama and theatre, A-level, Miss Hurd, who teaches product design and media. We have Mr. Dooley, who does English literature and language. We have Mr. Gold, who teaches physics, Mr. Brocklebank in the PE department. We've got Miss Smiley in film and Mr. Watkins in RE. Fabulous. So my very first question is to absolutely everyone. What do you cover in your subject? So let's start off with Mr. Parry. What do they cover in drama and theatre?
Okay, thank you. So the course is actually broken into three components. And in a nutshell, really what they are is the making and creation of drama. The second component is performance-based through 2 studio performances, 1 group and typically 1 monologue. And finally, the analysis of drama, looking at live theatre and also looking at studied texts that we've explored in class.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Miss Smiley, what do you cover in film studies?
Well, like drama and English, we also study texts, but film texts. And like in them, we would look at themes and character and narrative construction. And I think like those as well, we'd look at context. So historical context, political context. So we might study a topic like German Expressionism, which happened after the First World War, and look at the anxiety that created that movement. So we do some history of cinema as well, some silent cinema, some bonkers experimental cinema, some modern classic Hollywood, some old Hollywood. It's very varied. And very well structured. We do some world cinema, some European cinema, someone like Del Toro, Pan's Labyrinth, you may know. So we do 2 exams on different film texts, and then we have nearly a third of the course is creative coursework. And you can either make your own 5-minute film, or else you can write screenplays. So it does fit very nicely with English in that creative element.
Fantastic. I love the sound of bonkers films. I want to investigate a bit more, I think. That sounds great. Mr. Gold, tell me about physics A-level, please.
Okay, so in physics A-level, we cover a broad range of modern physics topics from imaging and signaling, mechanics, quantum mechanics, modern cosmology and astrology, looking at the stars, basically. And yeah, a broad range of stuff, not in any massive detail, because physics is such an enormous subject, but there's enough there to pique the interest of anyone who's interested in, the way everything works.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Let's go over to Mr. Dooley, who will talk about the 2 courses that we have in the English department.
So in English, we offer 2 A-levels. We offer English literature and we offer English language and literature combined. And very broadly speaking, both courses cover poetry, prose and drama. So we will look at poems in a little bit more detail, in greater depth than you might have done at GCSE. We look at poems that were written before 1900 and compare them with poets and sets of poets that were writing after 1900. The differences between the 2 courses kind of vary in terms of the proportion of how much poetry or prose or drama you are studying. So For example, in English literature, the sort of weighting is more on how much you have to read. If you are someone that loves reading and you love books and you really like to kind of look at subtext and inference and all those things when you're studying a literary text, then the literature might be your course. If you're someone that likes the kind of nuts and bolts of what makes up English language and you perhaps prefer looking at non-fiction prose texts, then the Lang and Lit combined course is for you. In both courses, we have what we call a non-exam assessment, which is basically a coursework unit. In the literature, it's a really exciting course for those that love reading because you choose your own books to write about and then you design your own question. And in association with the exam board, we shape a question, we look at where your kind of expertise lies, we look at where your passion for reading lies, and we shape a piece of coursework that you have designed and that you write. And the idea is that you spend a period of a few weeks, a couple of months working on something that you are genuinely really interested in exploring at greater depth. And in the Lang and Lit course, the coursework involves a little bit of creative writing. And so you get to do some analysis of other people's writing, but you also get to do your own piece of creative writing and your own piece of non-fiction writing too. So if you kind of like writing and you like looking at the nuts and bolts of what makes up the sort of the bones and the structure of English language, then look at the Lang and Lit course. If you love reading and looking at kind of character development and all those things, then it's the literature course is the one for you. And one thing I would say is if you're looking at both of those and you're not quite sure where to go, speak to your English teacher and talk about where your strengths lie and play to your strengths, because your English teacher will know you're likely to be studying a English language GCSE as well as an English literature GCSE. So look at what aspects of those courses you're enjoying, which aspects of those courses you have the greatest strengths in, and talk to your English teacher because they might be able to steer you and guide you towards the right course post GCSE.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Dooley. Let's go over to Miss Hurd. Tell us about product design.
Right, okay, so product design is 50% coursework and 50% exam based. It's very much for kind of people that want to go on and maybe study design. But there is quite a lot of written work in the course too, so students have to be mindful of that. But the coursework's a design and make project where you choose a context and you take it all the way through the 2 years where you do research, designing, and then you go on to make it. And in the exam, you learn a lot of theory based on materials, current technologies and processes that are out in the real world, and then a little bit of design history as well.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Mr. Watkins, tell us about RE A-level.
Thank you. Okay, RE A-level is kind of a history of Western ideas. So we'll start off by looking at people like Plato and Aristotle and look at how ideas have developed about what's true, what's not true, what's right and what's wrong over the last sort of 3,000 years. RE is a mixture of religion, philosophy and ethics. So we'll look at the history of religious ideas, particularly Christian theological ideas, some of the divisions between different types of Christians and their different beliefs. We'll focus on philosophy, what is true and what's not true, with a particular focus on, is there such a thing as a God or gods? Is there evidence for that or against that? What's the nature of miracles or religious experiences? So what's true and what's false? And the ethics side of the course looks about right and wrong. So there we'll look at ideas that if you did GCSE RE, and you don't have to have done GCSE RE, if you did GCSE RE, you'll be familiar with issues like the death penalty or abortion or how we treat animals, all those kind of ideas. But what we'll do is we'll put them on a bit more of a theoretical perspective, and we'll look at some different ethical traditions, natural moral law, the ideas of situation ethics, the idea of Aristotelian virtue ethics, and we'll look at different ways of trying to decide what's right and wrong. And we'll end up having lots of debates, arguments and discussions, bringing in ideas of people who lived thousands of years ago with people who live today to try and deal with issues that as human beings we're all still trying to deal with many years after the first things were discussed.
That sounds fascinating. Thank you very much. Mr. Brocklebank, PE, tell us more.
So PE is, the A-level was absolutely fantastic because it covers such a broad and diverse range of topic areas The course itself is split up into 3. So you've got one area which focuses much more around the factors affecting participation of physical activity in sport. That might be more sort of societal level. So maybe we think about, you know, sport and society, and maybe the influences that have been in place over a number of years to get us to there. But that can also link into skill acquisition. So what is it that we actually need to do to acquire certain skills and to improve as a performer? Or it might be that there's a focus around the anatomy and physiology side. So we really go into, in comparison to certainly GCSE, we dive into the human body in a lot more detail. We understand how we utilize energy. We understand all of our bodily systems work to make us an effective performer, and maybe in certain cases why certain habits in relation to your lifestyle might actually lead to you really struggling to be a healthy, active individual in the long run. That then also branches out into factors affecting more sort of optimal performance. So sort of bridging from what we've done maybe around anatomy and physiology, we dive much more into the biomechanics, so the much more specific movement components of the body, and that might go into things such as Newton's laws and all sorts of different directions. And then we also look at exercise physiology, which dives much more into things such as nutrition. It can dive into periodization, so linked into actually creating and developing training programs. What's also great into sort of the considering optimal performance is you start to dive into the psychological side of sport and physical activity, and what are the influences that we might have that actually lead to either an effective performance or a failing performance. And then we actually take a little look at more modern sport and the sense of actually how we've optimized performance through things such as technology. So what we sort of got from there is it's a really academic subject for a major component of it, but being a physical activity or physical based subject, there is then the practical component that comes in as well, which makes up 30%. So 70% is theoretical orientated, 30% is practical, with 15% being on your pure practical performance, and then 15% also focused then on your analysis of performance and actually making really quite significant links back to the theoretical content that you've been learning in the course, to then actually what's the effects and causations of certain things in a performance. So an absolutely fantastic course which covers so much.
So it's not just being able to kick a ball.
Nope, not just being able to kick a football. Fortunately, we've moved quite a significant way across that, and it's, as I say, one of those subject areas that actually, you know, from a university level, and certainly from the concept of being a really fast growing area that it's part of, you know, will pay real value to anybody that has any form of interest in physical activity or health in general.
Fantastic. Sounds like something I actually want to do. So I was rubbish at catching the ball at school, but that sounds like something I actually could find out more about. So it sounds good. The one thing that I didn't tell you about is I'm here representing media today, and media as a course is actually a Cambridge technical. So it's worth exactly the same UCAS points as an A-level. But how we break down the media course is it's done through units. So we do have 2 exams, one of them much more practical than the other, looking at how you plan and create a media product. So you look at things like storyboards, how to devise a script, how to think about risk assessments when you're creating a product. The second exam looks at media and audiences. So we might look at something like Radio 1 Extra and try and think why it would work for a certain audience, but wouldn't work for maybe perhaps an older audience. And then the practical bit where you get stuck in is it's really hands-on. So we teach you loads of different media skills, how to make a music video, how to create your very own marketing and advertising campaign, creating your own magazine, or perhaps your own documentary or short film. And you learn lots of skills that you can then take on into adult life, perhaps take on to university, or perhaps just make a fantastic creative portfolio as you get through the course. So it is a very practical, hands-on course, and works nicely with a lot of the subjects that are here, like product design, drama, film, English. I've had lots of students that have done PE and media and then become sports journalists. I've even had some students that are fantastic at the sciences, so physics and chemistry, and then looked at behind the scenes in media. So they all do work very nicely together. Now, I talked about a CTEC course there. The majority of the subjects here, I think you're all A-levels, am I right? But yeah, so all A-levels, which the majority of them will be exam-based. But by show of hands, how many of you have got coursework elements to what you do? None for physics and RE, but everything else has a coursework element to them. And usually it will be 2 years of lots of learning and then your exams at the end of your 2 years for A-level. A Cambridge Technical or a BTEC course or an applied course is usually broken down by units. And so that might be that it's either an exam or a coursework unit, and they are done every sort of so often rather than waiting till the very end of your course. Depends how you like to learn, but you can find out more information on that at our Subject Live webinar. So what kind of equipment do you need to do your course? Product design, do you need any particular equipment for your
I'll mute
course?
myself. Not really, we provide most of it, but if you've got a really good set of coloured pencils or some markers, that would be great. Yeah, that's probably all you need, but we provide most of it. So yeah, nothing else you really
Fantastic.
need.
Thank you very much. Physics, do you need anything in particular?
A good scientific calculator, and actually a smartphone is really, really helpful because you can download all kinds of excellent apps for analysing data and motion, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so a good smartphone, more than, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I'm sure we'll have lots of students now saying to mum and dad, right, I need the latest smartphone just to do this course.
That's quite right, yeah.
What about film? Do you need to buy loads of DVDs to do this course?
No, you don't. Again, smartphone is very useful. We do lots of practical work because I believe that you learn a lot by doing things. And some students have their own cameras. We can lend cameras, but you can do an awful lot on a phone as well.
Absolutely. And with media and film, and I think product design and photography, you can use our creative apps. The Adobe suite is absolutely free for students to use if you need to do any editing. Drama and theatre, are there any particular pieces of equipment that you need?
Not really. You don't even really have to have taken GCSE drama. Because the A-level course is such an advancement in what you're doing. So a real willingness, possibly some experience of performance, but almost certainly the only thing that you need is some experience in the theatre, maybe even of watching it. Right now on Amazon Prime, there is a series of RSC and National Theatre performances that were recorded during lockdown that are free to watch. Also on BBC The Arts, you can go on there and watch some theatre. Any experience at all in doing that, or actually getting out and seeing some shows, is just brilliant.
Fantastic. I bet that's really good for you, Mr. Dooley, in English as well, sort of watching some of the theatre.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we watch editions and versions of the plays that we study, certainly in class. Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing that. And then all you really need for English is an enthusiasm and willingness to read independently and read widely. You know, students that enjoy reading and have a love of reading and do that voraciously and in their own time do a lot better and enjoy the course a lot more. We provide all the texts that you need. Frequently students will buy their own versions of the as long as it's an okayed and checked version by the exam board, but if you can buy your own versions from Waterstones or Amazon or whatever, then they make their own annotations in that, and they can keep those copies, or they can buy them from us later. But yeah, you just all you need is an enthusiasm for the subject, and we'll provide the rest. I guess if possible, if you've got access to something that you can type on, the coursework unit, when we get to that, is typed in Word. But the college can provide access to laptops and computers, and we have a lot of people that use the study room to complete their coursework. So you don't feel that you have to have a laptop or something that you can type on, but that can be useful as well for wider research.
Absolutely, we have a study room for students to use. You get your own designated study time. It's not free time, it's study time to get that coursework complete. And we also provide a bursary for those students that feel they need it, so that you can use that money to help with course resources, or perhaps trips and experiences, to make sure that you get the benefit of our college and not sacrifice it depending on your situation and background. PE, is there anything they need in particular? Skipping rope? I'm being very stereotypical here, sorry.
Only ever so slightly, but it's all right. We'll push past it. Now, we're very fortunate here at Netherhall School that we have a massive range of facilities that can go from fitness suites through to sports halls, through to dance studios and all sorts of bits and bobs. Although obviously we are a practical subject, this is much more academic leaning. So we do spend the majority of our time in a classroom situation, but wherever we can basically add it into our lessons, and it can fit in so many different scenarios, we do go out and utilize the facilities that we have. So just having access to a PE kit in some way, shape or form is really, really helpful. And then also I would go along the lines as well of saying around smartphones, because again, we love to do a lot of movement analysis. We love to utilize any forms of apps that we can find on that are access to our smartphones. So yeah, making sure we've got kit, enthusiasm to be physically active whenever, you know, the time calls for it, but at the same time accepting the scenario that of being in that classroom and really studying it at a greater depth. And then, yeah, a smartphone to sort of support the studies as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Lastly, Mr. Watkins, anything for RE?
If you'd like to bring a pen and paper along, that would be useful. But generally what we want is someone with an open, inquiring mind who's willing to debate and argue and get involved in discussions, debates, you know, and is willing to explore ideas. So that's the type of personality we need. You don't need any equipment whatsoever.
Absolutely fantastic. Same with media. We have lots of equipment here that you can use. As I said, the Adobe Suite is free for students to use at home and here, but just an open mind and being able to think maybe a little bit outside the box, not always just going for the black and white answers, making sure that we can get something a little bit more creative. Let's move on to the future. Lots of our students here might already have a goal that they have in mind. Perhaps they want to go to university or a job. You know, let's just do a bit of wordplay and see what you could do with your course. So where could you end up job-wise? Let's start off with product design.
Unmute myself. Okay, so basically product design leads very nicely to any design career. So, you know, whether that be product design, graphic design, interior design, architecture, web design, anything that where the word design in it, I would imagine, you know, that's what product design leads to. So we've had lots of students go on and study all those things. So that's great.
And just before I carry on, I know that Mr. Parry said with drama, you don't have to have done drama at GCSE to then do A-level. Is that the same with product design?
Pretty much. So we're talking design and technology, but it may be if you've done art. Actually, we take on students that haven't done either art or design and technology at GCSE. So yeah, we have an open mind.
Fantastic. Film. We'll go to careers, but just in terms of GCSEs, they don't have to have done film at GCSE.
No. Almost nobody has done film at GCSE.
So it's a brand new course to lots of people. And if you have done it, great. You're just learning more stuff. What could you do in the film studies industry?
Well, the film industry is big in this country. There's film and there's also television. Companies like Netflix are doing a lot of production work in this country. So some people might want to go into that. But you're also gathering other skills like analytic skills, writing skills, creative writing skills, which could be useful in lots of different jobs, teamwork skills, which are very, very transferable, specific skills like editing, which might be useful in a small business where you're making videos, promotional videos perhaps, and equally sound as well, sound engineering, working in the theatre, working in sound recording. There are lots of openings.
Fab. Yeah, media, you could work in the industry, you could become a politician, a journalist, or even be a teacher if you fancied it. So there are those opportunities. PE, Mr. Brocklebank.
So as I've said before, it's PE is sort of connected into one of the most or the fastest growing sort of sectors of society at the moment. And yes, obviously this could be something that would be great to have if you're looking to be a performer of some form. It can be great if you're wanting to go into maybe a teaching route or a lecturing route or a coaching route, but your opportunities go much, much wider than that as well. It might be that you want to become a physiotherapist. It might be you want to be a sports journalist, a sports analyst. It could be a psychologist. It might be you want to go into the armed forces. Maybe you want to manage a leisure centre of some form or larger than that. Maybe you want to be some form of sports business owner. this is the thing with this course, is it's so broad and diverse in the topics that it gets to talk about, the connections that it can make to anything that you want to do in the world of physical activity is pretty much, you know, whatever you want it to be. And I think that's also reflected in the fact that we're seeing a lot of our students now sort of taking this on to university level and really exploring those diverse opportunities.
Brilliant. Mr. Dooley, go on, give us some jobs in English.
It's very difficult to think of jobs where the skills you learn in English are not applicable, really. I think what we'll be learning is detailed analysis, being able to read for meaning, read for subtext, read critically, and those skills are just so transferable across the workplace that I think it's a really valuable, both of the courses are really valuable. But if we were to look at kind of specific routes, a lot of people are considering the legal profession, becoming lawyers, having to sort of forensically analyze kind of texts that are put in front of them, teaching profession, being a writer, being a journalist, anything that deals with words and language and analysis, I think it sets you up really, really well for a very broad career path range. And in that respect, it's quite exciting.
Fantastic, thank you. What about physics, Mr. Gold?
So physics sets you up for a massive range of careers potentially down the line. Obviously, engineering is a big thing, and engineering encompasses so many different areas. I couldn't list them all here. There's a lot of physics involved in medicine, so nuclear medicine, the whole range of stuff there. A lot of people who study physics go into finance because they take a lot of the analysis skills with them into that industry. Obviously, then you've got things more related to science like astronomy and just the general sciences going onto research and further degrees. Things like architecture, computer science, computing. So there's an enormous range of things that physics actually sets you up for really nicely.
Fantastic, thank you. Ari, with Mr. Watkins.
I'd echo some of the things that Mr. Dooley said in relation to English. Anything people related, then Ari is very useful for. It's particularly good for things like journalism, law, public service, those kind of areas, but it develops those critical thinking skills and the ability to put yourself out of your own perspective and consider arguments from different points of view. And that's something which is beneficial in pretty much any career where you come across people.
Fantastic, thank you. Mr. Parry, just acting?
Traditionally, at this centre, we have sent off a wide number of performers and actors to some of the very best foundation courses and drama schools, not just in the country, but in the world. So they've started here with us, and then they've started their professional training at some of these incredible centres like Mount View, like RADA, and at Juilliard as well. And they all came from Netherhall. We've also had a wide number of students who go on to study university degree in drama and theatre arts and have ended up following, maybe not following in my footsteps, but certainly they've ended up teaching. But we also have had some students who've gone off and become location managers with production companies, costumiers and makeup artists as well. So all of the aspects of theatre production and drama production are open, although the course is primarily for those who are interested in performance.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I'm going to pose my last question to you all, so I'll give you a bit of time to think about your answer. In one sentence or less, why should someone study your course? So Mr. Dooley, you've got to think of 2 sentences because you've got 2 courses to think about, okay? But I just want to say thank you to my amazing panel who've been able to share their secrets and their joys of their subjects. If you do want to find out any more information, of course, you can click on any of the links and go back to the certain subjects to really explore them further. We have our live webinars where you can find out from students exactly what they think of the course and ask them questions too. And of course, you can go back onto the website and click on the lovely photos of our staff who will be able to answer your questions by email if you feel that you haven't had anything answered after all of that. But thank you for tuning in. Before we go though, let's get this final question in. I'm going to start with Mr. Gold. Why should they do physics?
Okay, everything happens for a reason, and that reason is usually physics.
Love it. Okay, let's go for Mr. Watkins. Ari.
To understand where the ideas that underpin your world come from.
Nice. Mr. Dooley, go ahead. Both of them go at once. That's fine.
So study literature if you absolutely love reading and you have a passion for reading, and study the combined course if you love exploring the nuanced facets of the English language.
Oh, lots of beautiful words there. Thank you. Let's go for PE with Mr. Brocklebank.
Well, your physical, mental and social well-being are things that you're going to need to consider for the rest of your life. And as being part of a growing part of a society, it is something that certainly will provide many opportunities for you in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you. Miss Hurd, product design.
To learn to have a passion for design. That's what you'll do.
Nice. Media, to be creative and to discover things that are outside the box and venture to the future. I don't know. I've had to talk so much I can't think, but go and explore the website. There's loads to do with media. It is a creative subject and I think it will allow you to explore that creativity. Miss Smiley, film.
Will give you a lifelong interest that you can share with people of all ages and backgrounds wherever you go, and it's such fun.
Love it. Thank you. And last but nowhere near least, Mr. Parry, go for drama and theatre.
The reason why you should come here is this is the best drama and theatre department in Cambridge. And if you are serious about drama and theatre and it's not just a pastime, this is where you come.
Fantastic. Thank you all for coming along. It's been lovely to hear about all of your subjects and we look forward to meeting our fabulous students in the future. Thank you.